You get the whole couch to yourself.
I know, I feel special up here.
Thank you very much, Jolie. So why don't we just get started with a little bit, tell the audience a little bit about your role and what you do at Eventbrite, and then we'll get into some more of the specifics about how you and how your team helps drive growth there.
Sure. So I work formally on the marketing team. I'm in charge of user acquisition and retention at Eventbrite, but I also have a unique aspect of my job, which is to work very closely with the product, engineering, UX teams to help drive in-product user growth, which becomes very important, particularly as a company reaches scale stage. It can be a major lever for growth.
So Eventbrite's unique in terms of its approach to growth. And so how I understand it, you guys really combine the growth aspects of product and marketing and press and all these other areas under one umbrella, your umbrella. And so I don't think most companies really do that, or if they do, they don't really do it that well. So can you talk a little bit about how you manage your growth teams, how you guys think about growth, and make sure everybody's on the same page?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it really starts at the top. The most successful companies that have aligned marketing and product to drive growth, it started with the CEO. So Dick Costolo at Twitter really helped to create the growth charter, create the growth team, and give them air cover to sort of rock the boat throughout different aspects of the product. Similarly at Eventbrite, before I even started, Kevin Hartz, our CEO and founder, really believed in the growth mission, and we didn't yet have a cross-functional product engineering user growth team, but upon joining, we helped align different areas within the company to actually build out that dedicated team. And I think it starts with understanding what are the key levers of your business, what are the metrics that are really important to driving that growth, making those widely known throughout the organization, and then having a small, nimble team that can impact those metrics, as well as ones that they are solely dedicated towards moving, that can be driven throughout product engineering, et cetera. So I think if I could share a tangible example, a project that we've done to help illustrate this, Eventbrite has a pretty unique built-in growth engine whereby 58 million people in the United States have bought tickets on Eventbrite previously. And we know that people who attend events also organize events. So using this huge base of people who have first bought a ticket on Eventbrite, we work to convert those people to understand that they can also host events on Eventbrite, which creates this virtuous flywheel of growth. So how the different functions work to try to test this hypothesis of can we improve this conversion rate from event attendees to become event organizers. We started with our market intelligence group doing surveys to understand, do people who buy tickets on Eventbrite understand that they can use Eventbrite to organize their events? And we found largely that there was a gap in understanding of how our product works. So that's the first step. Then we held qualitative research sessions with people who had started as event attendees and later converted into event organizers to understand what were their motivations, what was that aha moment where they understood that they could do so, and got some great nuggets. Like one person said, well, I had such a great experience buying a ticket on Eventbrite, I wanted to give my event attendees for my event that same great experience. And so that's a golden nugget that you can use to help communicate the value to prospective people that you're trying to convert. Similarly, then we looped in the analytics team to look at our data and understand, okay, are there patterns, are there trends, or is there a higher propensity for users to convert? And we found a pretty big aha moment, which is once an attendee of an event attends their second event from a different event organizer, so that could be if they go to a cooking class on Eventbrite and a tech conference. It's kind of an aha, oh, I can use this to organize events for any type of event. And then so that piece of data helped us use better targeting, send triggered emails once a person has attended 2 or more events. So that's just a great example of using the analytics team to help drive this. And then lastly, at Eventbrite scale, we have more than 20 million unique visitors per month. Your product becomes your largest touch point to convert users. And so we worked with the product team, engineering, user experience to look for where in the product can we help to message that people buying tickets can also organize events. An example there is once you purchase a ticket on Eventbrite, the order confirmation page, there's a very large call to action. I don't know how many of you saw it when you registered for this conference, but it says, 5 of your friends use Eventbrite to organize events, and that's all powered through Facebook Connect data. But through similar placements throughout the product, we were able to dramatically increase conversion rate of people who start out buying tickets and later convert into event organizers. So hopefully that showcases how all the different functions work together and in tandem to drive key metrics and key goals for the company.
So you mentioned the importance of metrics and data, but more specifically, what metrics do you guys really measure or really care about when it comes to growth, and how do you measure it? What tools do you use to measure it?
So every business is obviously different, but one of the most famous examples that we use at Eventbrite is the Facebook user accounting formula. So how many new users are you acquiring? How many are going dormant for a period of time? How many are you winning back? So what is your net active user base? And that, the definition of active will change with every business, but that's critical for you to know. You don't want to just be filling the top of a leaky bucket. It's also really important to understand the unit economics of your business. So what is the value of each user? How much should you be spending to scale users? And then really peel back the layers of the onion to understand what unique metrics are relevant to your business. In ours, it would be the example of that attendee to event organizer conversion rate. We track that religiously, et cetera. So a few of the tools that we use, I love Mixpanel. I think it's great for funnel visualization. We do a lot of our own in-house reporting. We use Tableau to visualize a lot of the data within Eventbrite's database. We have our own reporting infrastructure. And then I would say for A/B testing is another tool that has good reporting. Optimizely is very helpful, especially when you tie Optimizely to Mixpanel to look at conversion events deeper in the funnel. But those are a couple examples.
You've talking a lot about conversion, and I think when we think growth, we talk a lot about user acquisition, all that sort of thing. But conversion is a really important part of that as well, and signups, creating events, that sort of thing. What are the specific strategies that you guys implement that work better for conversions versus maybe just say general growth? What are the considerations that you have when it comes to conversions?
Yeah, so I'm an absolute rabid believer in the importance of conversion. One of my favorite posts that I've ever read is by Bill Gurley from Benchmark Capital. It's titled "Conversion, the most important internet metric of all." I highly encourage you to read it. It's fantastic. And so it's something that we push on every day. My team on the marketing side last year ran 127 A/B tests on our marketing landing pages for paid traffic. So we are continuously iterating, understanding what is improving conversion. And it's from the top of the funnel of a sign up all the way through the bottom of the funnel. And I think even a team that's really focused on driving top-end acquisition, sign-up metrics, et cetera, you can often overlook the biggest opportunities, which tend to be deeper in the funnel. So in Eventbrite's case, it starts with a sign-up. You want the user to take the next step of saving an event when they're creating one. And then the deeper in the funnel area is from a saved event to published. And so we spent a tremendous amount of time down there running A/B tests to help move that metric. And it's been one of the biggest drivers of growth on the supply side for us.
So you personally have been at startups at multiple stages, early stage, late stage.
Yeah.
And I think there's a fascinating thing to talk about. I would say Eventbrite's a later stage. But what is the difference in your mind between early stage growth, for an early stage startup versus later stage growth for a company like Eventbrite or even, a public company or a Fortune 500?
Yeah. So Mark Andreessen once famously said there are two stages of a company: pre-product market fit and post-product market fit. And I'm a firm believer in that. And I've tried to do both. I've started my own company. I've been at TaskRabbit back when it was a Series A funded company, and now at Eventbrite later. And ultimately, pre-product market fit, I actually don't think you want to be focusing too much on user growth. I think a big mistake that people make is trying to find the magic unicorn growth solution that's going to scale your users via viral social factors by 100x. And that, it largely doesn't exist, or it's kind of frequently a spam tactic that goes away. So I would say at the earliest stage, really focus on finding how your product meets a market need, is solving a real tangible need. And once you start to feel signs that you're being pulled into the market, Sean Ellis, who's a very famous growth person, said he surveys a user base before doing any growth work with them. And if at least 40% of users don't say they would be very disappointed that your service, if your service went away overnight, you don't have product market fit. So look for that inflection point. And then once you've hit it, it's all about how do you pour fuel on the fire? How do you pour more dollars into it that return more dollars for you on the back end? How do you drive that conversion that we talked about? And how do you scale the team? How do you scale internationally to drive growth on an ongoing basis?
So I think we have time for a few more questions.
Sure.
One I wanted to ask you was about growth strategies when it comes to, so there's a couple levers that you can pull, right? You can pull the marketing lever, press lever, product lever. And so I'm especially interested in when you know that you need to really focus on product and using product to drive growth versus, say, marketing and to drive growth. So how do you determine which one to do, and what's the difference on pulling each lever?
Yeah, so I think at the early stage, again, product should be focused on getting to product market fit. And so using product for growth that early is not the best use of those finite resources, in my opinion. I think marketing is important early on to position your product, to get the product to market, so to speak, get good coverage, to get feedback on what the market expects. PR, I think, is important early on to get the word out there for your product, to help recruit. It's a little bit too frequently kind of a vanity thing for founders, but it does have a very valuable place. And then where product really comes in is post-product market fit. So then it's about tweaking the product, getting more out of every user that comes in, finding the additional funnels that are really important to help scale the business. But really, again, early stage product should be focused on finding that fit. Later stage is about scale.
So we were on product. You can even divide that further, right? You can divide that into the UX, engineering, the actual product management, all these different areas.
Yeah.
And so with your kind of organization, which is much more unified in terms of growth, what are you asking each of these groups to do specifically compared to the other? Is there one that's more important than the others?
That's a tough question. No, there's not one that's more important than the others except engineering. Engineering rules all, but that was a joke.
It's true.
It is true too. So I tried to give a few examples with that attendee to event organizer conversion funnel earlier, but if I could talk about the organizational structure a little bit more. When I first joined Eventbrite, even though the different functions were working together, it was often, there were competing priorities, people were being pulled in different areas, and so while we all agreed, hey, this is really important to focus on this funnel, it was tough to get a cohesive, sustained effort in that regard. And so what we found is by forming a small team, we have myself from marketing, we have an engineering director, 4 engineers, a product manager, an analyst, and a UX person. Having that team solely dedicated to driving in-product user growth has led to faster iteration, faster learnings. You can plot when that change in the organization took place and how conversion and key metrics have moved after the fact, and it's directly correlated. There's no doubt what drove that. So I would say think about carving out resources in your organization that have the sole charter, who know what the key metrics they're trying to move are, and are empowered and have the autonomy to actually do so and keep doing so.
So I think we have time for maybe 2 or 3 more questions.
Sure.
I was curious, what are some, and you talked a little bit about mistakes, but I wanted you to expand on it. What are some common mistakes you see companies, or mistakes you've made, or Eventbrite or other companies have made when it comes to growth?
Yeah, so I think the biggest one, and we touched on this a little bit earlier, is trying to scale too soon. And I'll use a very personal example. I previously co-founded a startup that was backed by some venture capital money, and I was hyper-focused on growth. How do we grow our user base? How do we get from 100,000 users to 200,000? And what I didn't realize at the time is we didn't have nearly enough engagement from our customers. It was a leaky bucket. And I remember a conversation I had with one of our investors, first round capital, where our VC pushed us, you need to really shift from this growth focus to engagement. And at the time, I didn't see it. And I think it led to, well, we did exit. We were acquired by TaskRabbit. It was a very modest outcome. And I think had we made the shift sooner, we did make the shift, but it was just too late. Had we made the shift to engagement sooner, I think we could have had a much better outcome or still been a standalone business today. So again, really understand what value you're creating in the market, how your product resonates, when you've hit that inflection point to product market fit, and then scale. But before that, it's just about getting to product market fit and getting enough users to get that feedback and to validate your concept and your product.
How about engagement? So what kind of things, we've been talking a lot about conversions of that, but just pure engagement. What are the kind of strategies that you implement to really drive up engagement in general?
Yeah, so social is a big one. So I don't know how many people in the room received Eventbrite's social notification that 2 or more of your connections were going to this conference. That's a great social behavior. We notify you, things like that. We try to send popular event recommendations to our event attendees, which really helps to drive back engagement. The open rates are extremely high in those emails, say 40%. Click-to-purchase rate is around 5%, which is extremely high for e-commerce. So we know we're on a good path there. I would say, additionally, we're building things like predictive churn models to understand when people are becoming inactive and how do we send triggered notifications, or even we're testing outbound phone calls to people to, when their behavior deviates from past behavior, they become less active, to try to re-engage them. So I think engagement is very important, but it becomes even more important in the later stage where you're trying to keep people on the platform when you already have a very large base. Very
quickly, very last question. You get one sentence, one piece of advice for the audience.
Focus, just ruthless focus on what's most important. I think people get spread too thin.
That's 2 sentences.
All right.
We're good.
Focus.
Round of applause.